We're on Tes Amid Aleph, so we're going to just bring us back to where we were up to. We had a problem of a stira and brises. We had brought a brisa, or our Mishnah actually says that a ger toshev who kills another ger toshev b'shegeg goes to galus. Remember, ger toshev is somebody who's not a yid, but who's makabel the sheva mitzvahs b'nei noach. But we brought a brisa that talked about the din that a ben noach, nei noach, get misa if they're over on the sheva mitzvahs b'nei noach. And we said, a ger toshev is similar to ovid kechavim. Just like an ovid kechavim, that doesn't make a difference whether he killed another guy or if he killed a yid, he gets misa, whether it's b'shayig or not. Ger is the same thing. So that's not like our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said a ger toshev who kills another ger toshev goes to galus. That Mishnah, that brisa seems to say that a ger toshev who kills another ger toshev, whether it's b'shayig or b'mezid, he gets killed. He gets misa. So he said for b'shem Rav Chizda that Einachanami, a ger would normally get if he does derech yurida, he would get galus. But if he kills derech aliyah, aliyah is karav lemezid, and therefore he gets misa. And that was Rav Chizda shita, and Rava disagreed with that. He said no. He says the other way around. Derech aliyah is karav la'onis. It's not karav lemezid. So Zak Gemara. So Rava says, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make a different situation, but it's really the same cheshbon. It's the same type of answer as the first teretz, that he says it's not talking about where it's derech aliyah versus derech yirida, but it's omer mutter. That Abaye says, the Rava says, that omer mutter is karav lemezid. If a ger toshev says, I thought I was allowed to kill someone else. So he says there wasn't a problem with it. It sounds very bizarre that someone think it's mutter to kill another, to kill another person, but it must have been some kind of case that he had some reason to think that. But he was wrong. So Rava says that's a karav lemezid, and that's where we said he'll get misa. But if he was a true shaygig, he really made a mistake. He was trying to lower a barrel and it fell from his hands and it killed someone, another ger toshev, then he would get galus, just like a yid. So that's what I think that's basically what we're up to. Amalei Abaya. So it's about 12 lines from the bottom of Tesamadal. Amalei Abaya. So Abaya says back to Rava, who says Oimim Mutter is Karav Lamezid, and that's the case where a ger toshev, is going to be chayiv misa for killing another ger toshev. Oimim Mutter Anasu said Oimim Mutter is an oinus. He's not just not a Karav Lamezid. He's not even a shaygig. It's totally out of his control. He had no way of knowing. Rava said, no, I think Oimim Mutter is Karav Lamezid. So it's coming out that Rava holds Oimim Mutter as a Karav Lamezid, and Rav Chizda, who had said the teretz that it's talking about derech aliyah, he doesn't hold like Rava. He holds to the other direction. He holds Oimim Mutter is an oinus. They're each going l'shitase. The itma kasava behema v'nimsa adam. If a ger toshev thought he was killing a behema, and it turned out it was another ger toshev, knani v'nimsa ger toshev. He thought it was a knani, and it turned out it was a ger toshev. A ger toshev would be part of killing a knani. Rava amachayev. Rava says he's chayev because Rava says he's oimim mutter karav lemezid. Because Rava, like we just said, this case where he thought it was an animal, and it turns out it was a guy, it was another ger toshev, he should have been more careful. He's an oimim mutter, and he's a kind of karav lemezid, and therefore he's going to be chayev misa. Chizda oimim potter. He says he's potter. Oimim mutter anasu. He says in the other direction, oimim mutter is an onus. So they're going to argue about this point. So Rava asked Rav Chisda, you're saying that Oimer Mutter is Oines Hin Chameis Al Isha Asher Lakachta. Avimelech, after he took Sarah from Avram, he said, "Look, the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to kill me because of this woman that I took." And Avimelech said, "Well, I had no way of knowing. I'm a Oimer Mutter. I thought she was your sister, like you said. When Avram came, he claimed she was his sister, and that's why Avimelech said, that's why I took her. So I thought it was Mutter. My la bidei Adam." He says, "Hin chameis, I'm going to get killed." So that means that he's saying he's getting killed for taking someone where it's a case of Oimer Mutter. So you see that Oimer Mutter by a ger, I guess Avimelech was treated as a ger Toshav. He was clearly he was claiming to Avram that he's going to follow the Sheva Mitzvah Noach. He wouldn't take an Isha that didn't belong to him, and he's still going to get Misa for taking someone where he's saying, "I thought it was Mutter." So l'chayra, you see that it's a karv l'meisid. So Gemara loy b'dei shamayim. Gemara says no. When he said hin chameis, he didn't mean that he's going to get killed by a court. He meant the Bar Sham's going to kill him, but Eina Chanami, he's not a karv l'meisid. Dekanami. Now, I'll prove to you that it was just b'dei shamayim, not that he was going to get a sentence of misa and bezin. D'chsiv mechatali, that he said to the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Rebbeinu Shalom was talking to Avimelech in the chaloim. You did this by mistake. And I'm going to clear you from this. And that's why I didn't let you touch her. But he says, the Rebbeinu Shalom said, from doing the chet to me. So you see that it means that it was a chet to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Sorry, Rafal, I have to pay attention to my phone now. Dovi doesn't know about the crisis in my house. Zak the Gemara. You're saying a raya that when it says mechatayli, when the Rebbeinu Shalom says from doing a chet to me, that means it's only b'dei shamayim, but the person's not necessarily mechuyev misa b'dei adam. The chatasi le'elikim, when Yosef Hatzadik said by Paitisa's wife, when he told her, I'm not going to do the Aveira with you because I don't want to do a chet to Hashem. Lalikim la Adam. Does that mean that it would only be a chet that's mechuyev b'dei shamayim and not b'dei Adam? But she was a married woman, and he was doing it. He knew she was a married woman. So it's certainly a issa that would be mechuyev misa b'dei Adam. Ela dinah masal Adam. Even though he said v'chatasi le'elokim, it doesn't mean that it's a chet that's only a chet to Hashem b'dei shemayim. It just means that he's doing a chet that the Baruch Shalom is bothered by, and it's taka misa b'dei adam. Hachanami dinah masal adam. So Rava, who holds that it's a karav lemezid, would say, even though it says chatei li to Hashem, it means, but it would be given over to bnei adam to pronounce the din. Abaye asks another kash to Rav, who says Oimer Mutter is karav lemezid. Hagoy gam tzadik tari, that Avimelech said to Rebbeinu Shalom, why would you kill me? Are you going to kill a tzaddik, even someone who didn't do anything wrong? So the chayra, if he's saying he's not mechuyev because she was Oimer Mutter, and the Rebbeinu Shalom was makabel this from him. He said, Eina chanami, you're not. I'm not going to kill you. So the chayra, the Rebbeinu Shalom was masking. You see, Oimer Mutter is potter. So the Gemara Hadam Kedem Hadri Iluya. The Gemara says over there, the pasuk makes it clear that it wasn't as simple as it sounds. Not that the Rebbeinu Shalom fully accepted Avimelech's taina. The pasuk says the Rebbeinu Shalom told Avimelech, you should return Sarah to Avram because he's a navi. In fact, the Gemara Eishes navi hu t'ta'ader, the lav navi lo t'ta'ader. It sounds like only because Avram is a navi, that's why Avimelech should return his wife. That doesn't make any sense. Only because he's a navi, you have to return her. So what it means, it says like Rav Shmuel ben Nachmani said. The Amar Rav Shmuel ben Nachmani, Amar Rav Yonis said. This is what the Rebbeinu Shalom was telling Avimelech. You really have to return her in any case because she's a married woman. And then you claimed You Avimelech claimed innocence, that you said you thought she was his sister. And you said because Avram told me that it was his sister, and therefore I didn't know she was married. So that's what he said, Navi, that Avram is a Navi. Memcha Lamad. And Avram figured out from you that he had to say it was his sister. Because normally when someone comes into a town, you ask, what would you like to eat? What would you like to drink? You don't ask him, is this woman your wife or your sister? Avram realized that from the fact that we're asking you this, that if he would say it was his wife, they would kill him in order to take it to Avimelech. So you, Avimelech, you're claiming innocence. But you knew when you ask someone, is this your wife or your sister, he only has one safe answer to give. If he doesn't want to get killed, he has to say Achayschei. So you were doing it. You set the situation up that you should be able to claim innocence, but you were not innocent. You made it very clear to him that he has to say it's his sister in order to save his neck. So don't. He's a Navi. Avram knew exactly what was going on, and he knew what would happen if he said it's his wife. So you see that even though he's saying he's an Aymamuta, he was really Mechoyev Misa, because he should have paid attention, he should have realized Derech Eretz, then that he can't say I'm an Aymamuta, because if you would have thought about it for a second, you would have realized you're leaving Avram with no other option, and therefore that's why you're Mechoyev Misa. Zaktamish. Hasum Eina Goyla. Someone who's blind, who kills someone, does not go into Galus. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rameya Eina Goyla. Rameya says he does go into Galus. The Gemara will explain the reasons. Hasoina Eina Goyla. Someone who hates someone and he kills, he doesn't go into Galus. Rabbi Yossi Amar Hasoina Nera. Rabbi Yossi says he doesn't get. Rabbi Yossi disagrees. He doesn't say he doesn't go to Galus and he gets off free. He says he gets killed. Neshu Kamuad. He's treated as a muad. As we're going to see in the Gemara, Rameir is going to say he can't get Misa because there's not going to be Hasra. Rabbi Yossi holds like the Manda Amar, who says the only reason for Hasra is that the person can't claim he's a Shagig. And this person, if he hates him, he's like we'll see, like he's like a Chaver, like someone who's a Talmud Chacham who doesn't need Hasra. Someone who he hates also, he doesn't need Hasra. We know that he's doing it on purpose. Reb Shimon Omer, yesh shayna goyla v'yesh shayna she'ena goyla. Depends on the circumstances, which the Gemara will explain. Anyone who we could say that he did it on purpose, he doesn't go to Galus. But someone who it's possible to say was taka b'shayik, that he didn't do it on purpose, it wasn't knowingly, he didn't do it knowingly, he goes to Galus. The first thing that we said, that someone who's a summa does not go to Galus, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rameya says he does go. L'loy rois prat l'summa, divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda learns from the pasuk says he killed someone below rois, then he goes into Galus without seeing. So he says that's excluding a summa who can never see. Rameya, when it says below rois without seeing, means someone who's capable of seeing but doesn't see. But someone who's not able to see is excluded. Rameya says without seeing is coming to exclude the summa. The Gemara is going to explain how does that marba the summa. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. What's the explanation of Rabbi Yehuda who says that a summa is excluded? Someone who comes across his friend in the field. Afilu summa. It's mashma, even a summa. Also b'lei rois, matcha. And then the pasuk says, but without seeing, but someone who is capable of seeing, that comes to exclude a summa, a blind person. Remeir below rois lamai. The pasuk says without seeing, that's coming to be mayit, and then it also says bevli das, without realizing, that's also coming to be mayit. It's also going to be mayit, a summa who can never see. Whenever you have two miyutim, it's coming to be marba. So therefore, Remeir says, even though the Torah sounds like it's coming to exclude a summa, since it's memayit a summa twice, it comes to include a summa. Like we said before in the earlier Gemara, we used Bevli Das to exclude someone who was miskaven. Rabbi Yossi Aimer Hasayna Ner. Rabbi Yossi said that a Saina is killed. Someone who kills who hates someone and he kills him b'shoigig, he gets killed. He can't say it was b'shoigig. Correct the Gemara, how could he get killed? V'lo yashrubei. There was no hasra. So Gemara, masnisin Rabbi Yossi bar Yehudi. This is going to Rabbi Yossi bar Yehudi, the Tanya based by Yehuda. We had him recently. Someone who's a Talmud Chacham doesn't need hasra. The point of hasra, according to Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, is that a person can't say, I didn't know it was asa. So when you give hasra and he says, even so I'm going to do it, then he can't afterwards say he didn't know it was asa. So the same thing with someone who he hates. He can't say that I didn't mean it. And this person who he hates, we have a good basis for assuming it wasn't b'shoigeg, it was really amazing. He says it depends on the circumstances. Tanya case. And what is this case that we say sometimes it is goyel and sometimes it's not? Nifzak goyel, nishmad eina goyel. If the person who, like we said, the classic case of someone who goes to Galus for killing b'shoigeg, if he was lowering a barrel and the rope that was holding the barrel broke, so we say, even if it's his soina, if it's nifsak, if it slips off, if it breaks, the string breaks, so you can't ascribe that to any kind of hatred, so then he goes to Galus. But if it's nishmat, if it slips from his hand, then he doesn't go to Galus. He's treated as we're chaysha that he's amazing, but he doesn't hold like Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda that you don't need hasra. He holds that you always need hasra, so therefore he's not going to be able to get killed. But he also can't go to Galus. We have a brayta that says he doesn't go to Galus unless it slips out of his hand, which is the exact opposite. Kasha nifsak anifsak, kasha nishmat anishmat. We had said b'shem Reb Shimon that when he kills his soina, if it's nifsak, he goes to Galus, and if it's nishmat, it doesn't. And here he's saying if it's Rabbi Shimon Omer, if it's nishmat, it goes to Galus. So, and for the Gemara, nishmat. So you have to switch it. The Bach says that the lashon is backwards. Nishmat anismat like kasha. If it slipped, that which we said in one place, he said he's only chayiv when it's nishmat. In another place, it's not. Haba oyev, haba soina. By an oyev, if it's someone he loves and it slips from his hands, then he goes to Galus. We don't have any reason to assume he caused it to slip on purpose. But a soina, then we assume he slipped it. It didn't really slip. He wanted this guy to die. Therefore, he doesn't get Galus. And nifsak anisar like kasha. Harabi v'harabbanim. We're talking about both cases are talking about, for example, it's not clear, but l'chayra could be talking about even oyev. But we had a machlekes before. What case is a person chayiv for a galus? So there was a machlekes in the Mishnah that Rebbe said it's only when he hits the tree and a piece of the tree flies out and kills the person, and the Rabbanan say it's when the actual axe head flies out and kills the person. So in this case, where when the string broke, so it's not him when he has a rope and the rope breaks and the thing kills someone when it's not attached to him anymore. According to Rebbe, you won't be chayiv on it. So this is a similar case to an axe that broke. It has to be where you hit something else and then that thing killed. So Rebbe would say over here also you won't get galus. But the Rabbanan who say that the case of the pasuk is talking about where the axe had broke, they would agree that nifsak is going to be chayiv. Zak the mission. Lahechan goyim. Where does someone who gets a din of galus, where does he go to galus? La'arei miklat. He goes into an ir miklat, to one of the cities of refuge. L'shalosh ever yadin, l'shalosh eretz Canaan. There were three on one side, on the ever yadin, on the other side of the yadin, where now is Jordan. L'shalosh eretz Canaan, three in Eretz Yisrael proper. Shnemer shalosh arim titnu me'ever liyadin, ve'shalosh arim titnu be'eretz Canaan. Three in the other side of Yadin and one in Eretz Yisrael. Actually, nifku shalosh be'eretz Yisrael, hayu shalosh be'ever yadin koltes. Even though the Yidden obviously were first in Ever Yardin and then they crossed into Eretz Yisrael, the ones in Ever Yardin were not operative until the ones in Eretz Yisrael were opened up. Until all 6 were in effect, none of them were working. The Mishnah says, there were roads that went straight from every city to another, that in the meaning from any city, sounds like it says from one city to the other. What it means is every city had a road that went straight to the Ir Miklat. You have to repair a derech for the people who are running away from the Goyal Adam. And then you have to divide, like we're going to see, you have to divide Eretz Yisrael into thirds. It would give the murderer, the person who killed B'shaygig, 2 Talmidei Chacham to go with him. The Gemara is going to explain exactly when they were provided. Shemi Agenu B'derech, in order to stop the Goyal Adam from killing him on the way. Yidabru Elav, that the Shnei Talmidei Chacham would talk the Goyal Adam out of killing him. But Meir Omer, Hu Medaber Al Yidei Atzmai. He could speak. No, he didn't provide the Shnei Talmidei Chachamim. He would speak on his own. He would convince the Goyal Adam on his own. The Ritzeach is the one himself who has to tell him not to kill him. At the beginning, when someone is found to have killed someone, and they don't know any facts, the first thing he does, they send him to Ir Miklat, will be safe from a Goyal Adam. And then Bezdin would send a messenger and bring the murderer from the Ir Miklat. Mishin is chayav misa bebezin hargei. The one who is found to be guilty of killing b'mezid would get misa bebezin. B'shaloin is chayav misa b'patreu. And someone who is found that he was innocent, that he was an oinus, he would be let free. Doesn't have to go to the Ir Miklat at all. Mishin is chayav goes, but someone who is found to be a shaygig, machzir noisaylim kaimei, they return him back to the Ir Miklat. Never v'shiva isaya eidal Ir Miklat. They should bring him back to the Ir Miklat. So there were 2 times. He first went to the Ir Miklat after he killed someone, before it was determined what level of culpability he had, and then he was brought to Bezdin. Then from Bezdin he was returned to the Ir Miklat. Moshe Rabbeinu separated 3 cities in Ever HaYarden. Connected Hivdil Yeshua Be'eretz Canaan. And opposite them, when Yeshua went into Eretz Yisrael, he separated 3 cities there to be Ir Miklat. And the cities in Ever HaYarden were directly opposite the cities in Eretz Yisrael. The same, right? Eretz Yisrael basically goes from south to north. So, as we're going to see, the cities were equidistant from the borders and the 3 cities in Eretz Yisrael, and the 3 cities in Ever HaYarden were directly opposite them on the other side of the Yarden. So Chevron be Yehuda connected Botzer Bamidbar. Chevron in Yehuda in Eretz Yisrael was opposite Botzer in the Midbar in Ever HaYarden. Shechem Bahar Ephraim connected Ramis Begillah. Shechem and Har Ephraim in Eretz Yisrael was opposite Ramis Begillah in Chutz La'aretz. And Kadesh Bahar Naphtali connected Golan Bashan. It was opposite the Ir Miklat of Golan, which was in Bashan and Ever HaYarden. The Shilashta. The pasuk continues, and they divide into thirds. So you Meshuloshin, they should be separated. They should be equidistant from one another. Shiyu midarim lechadroin kemechevron l'shchem, mechevron l'shchem kemishchem l'kadosh, mishchem l'kadosh kemikadosh l'tzofim. Meaning, starting from the south, if you divide Eretz Yisrael up into 4 equal quarters, so from the south to the first Ir Miklat, which was Chevron, was a quarter of the length of Eretz Yisrael. Then from Chevron to Shechem was another quarter. Then from Shechem to Kadesh was another quarter. And then from Kadesh to the northern border was another quarter. So there were 3 of them, 3 Ari Miklat, that were each separated from each other by a quarter of Eretz Yisrael. And then from there to the border was also a quarter. Be'ever Yarden Tlas, so fact tomorrow, Be'ever Yarden Tlas, Be'eretz Yisrael Tlas, doesn't really add up. There were only 2.5 Shvatim in Ever Yarden, and the rest of the Shvatim were all in Eretz Yisrael. So why did you have an equal amount of Ari Miklat in Ever Yarden as you had in Eretz Yisrael? It should have been 3 times as many. There should be 9.5 in Eretz Yisrael and 2.5 in Ever Yarden. Abaye begilat shchichi roitzchem. Abaye says that there were a lot of roitzchem in Ever Yarden. The Siv Gilad Kiryas Payaloi. Palei Oven. Gilad is a city full of people who do bad averis, akuva midam, and they trap people in blood. They would conspire to kill people. Right? So the way we said it was, from the border to the first town was a quarter. Right? Then from the first town to the middle town was a quarter. Then from the middle to the next was a quarter. So it was only if you were in between the two towns, you only had to go 1/8 of Eretz Yisrael to get to a near mikvah. But you were on the border, you would have to go 1/4 of Eretz Yisrael to get to your mikvah. So why is it why in the middle do they have easier access to the Arim mikvah? It's because in Shechem there was also many roitzchem. Like a thug, a people who go into troops. God is a troop. Chever Kaihanim, a group of Kaihanim. Derech Yirtzu Shchama. Like the way where people get killed on to Shechem. My Chever Kaihanim. So you see, Shechem, there were people waiting and lying in wait to kill people. Much like today. That background, if you go to Shechem, you're going to expect to get bad stuff to happen. My Chever Kehanim, why is it called a group of Kehanim? They would get together, they would make gangs to kill people. Like the Kehanim would also gather together, make groups to go around to collect truma from the granaries. There are only 6 Ari Miklat Vaksiv Aleim Titnenu Arboim V'Shtayim here. They put another 42 cities to be Ari Miklat. Amabaya Halul Kaltis Bein Ladas Bein Shalei Ladas Halul Ladas Kaltis Shalei Ladas Ein Kaltis. These 6 major ones would save someone if they went there, even not intending to use it as a Ir Miklat. It worked by fiat, but the other 42 you had to basically register and say, I'm going here to be saved, and then the Gael Adam was not allowed to go in and kill you. So the Mar v'Chever near Miklat, who was it true that Chever was one of the Ari Miklat v'Ksiva? Yinu l'Kalev is Chever and Kasher Diva Moshe. They gave Chever to Kalev. It didn't belong. It wasn't a ear of refuge. It belonged to Kalev. Amar Abaya Parvadasa D'Chsiv. That what they gave Parvadaha, they gave to Kalev was the suburbs of Chevron. The fields of the city and its courtyards, Nasl Kalev ben Yefuna. That's what they gave to Kalev. But the actual city itself was a Yer Miklat. In fact, the Mar Kaddish Yer Miklat Havoi was Kaddish really an Yer Miklat. Vaksiv Ari Miftzar, the fortified cities Hatsadim Tsar. What was the name of them? Hatsadim Tsar v'Chamas Rekas v'Kineres v'Kaddish v'Edrei v'Ein Chatzar. So Kaddish is included as a fortified city, Betanya, and we learned as far as Ari Miklat, Arm Halalu, these Ari Miklat, some like Tirin Katanim, they couldn't be tiny villages, like Krachim Gedelim, they couldn't be large cities like a fortified city. Eliyar's Beinin, they had to be regular sized small villages, small cities. Had to be medium sized, not a fortified city. So and we counted Kaddish amongst the fortified cities. Rav Yosef Tarti Kaddish Havei. There were 2 cities called Kaddish, and one was the fortified city, and the other one was the Ir Miklat. Ravashi Kain Slikum ve'Akra de Slikum. Like Slikum, there's a place called Slikum, and then there's the city near Slikum, which is also called Slikum. So you can have sometimes 2 cities next to each other that call the same name. Kufa. You can't make them small towns and not large cities. They have to be in between. You can't play that. They have to be in a place where there's water. The main shamayim. If there's no mayim, you provide for them water. Yeah, these are all things for the benefit of the people running away. If it will be too big, they won't be able to be protected because people won't know where they are. If it's too small, they won't be able to provide for themselves. It also has to have mayim so they could get what they need. They get water without having to leave the city. You only put it in a place, Rashi says, where there are he teaches shvakim. What do you say? That there are markets so that they could buy what they need. Rashi says in Makam Uchlasin that there should be other towns around them, so that they don't want. It has to be a big enough town that they have a robust police force. So if the Goyal Adam all band together and say we're gonna get our vengeance one day or the other, we're gonna lynch all the murderers, that there'll be enough people around to stop them. Nismatu Chlesein, and if the people around them diminished, there's not so many people, Masivin Aleim, the Bezin has to make sure to add to them. Nismatu Diurein, if the residents of the town got lessened, maybe in Lehen Karhanim living in Israelim, you have to bring other residents to be there. You can't sell in it weapons or trapping equipment, because those could be used to kill Reitzeach. Divrei Reb Nechemia. That's what Nechemia say it's allowed because it's needed. People need it that they shouldn't get killed by an animal, a wild animal, and they should be able to trap to live off of. They didn't allow them, although they allowed them to buy and sell these things, but you couldn't use them in the town. You couldn't lay traps, and you couldn't set out the ropes or make ropes. Either that there shouldn't be too many Goyal Adam coming in there with their traps, and then they'll find an excuse and they'll go and kill them, or that they shouldn't trap the Goyal the Reitzeach. Amar Yitzchak, micro. Where do we see that we have to provide all these arrangements for the Reitzeach? It says v'nas min hakel ha'el v'chai. He should run to one of these cities and he'll live. So he dashin. So you have to do what he needs, so he should be able to survive it. Talmud. Now we're going to enter into a little bit of Agadata. I know it's a little late, but I would like to at least not fall behind. We have to at least have blat today. It's the Tana, and this should go quick. Talmud Chagala, a Talmud who killed someone b'shoigig, Megalan Rabbi Yimai. His Rebbe has to go with him. Shenema v'chai. You have to provide for him when he needs to live. And the Talmud needs his Rebbe. This is why you shouldn't get a Talmud who's out carousing and he gets himself into situations where he might kill someone b'shoigig. Because if you're the Rebbe, then you're going to be on the hook. You're going to have to go to the miklat with him. A Rebbe who kills someone b'shoigig, his whole yeshiva goes with him. How do we know that Divrei Torah protects someone? It says the Torah is also a place that protects. So why does the Rebbe have to go to the miklat? He should be protected by the Torah that he's teaching. It's like, well, it only protects him as long as he's teaching. But if he takes a break, if he stops for a coffee, or if he goes to sleep at night, then the Goyal Adam could kill him. So if he has to go to the miklat, he'll be fully protected. But it says that the learning protects him, it means it protects him from the Malach HaMavos. Rav Chizda was teaching in Rav's Beis Medrash. And the Malach HaMavos said it's a time to go. His time has come, and I'm going to collect his neshama. But he couldn't get close to him because he was learning the whole time. He never stopped learning. He was filibustering the Malach HaMavos. So the Malach HaMavos had a trick. He went and he sat on a branch, Paka Arza, and the branch broke, V'shasik, and he got startled, then he stopped learning, V'yachalei. At that point, he was able to take his neshama. So that's what it means that the Torah protects, but again, it's only as he's speaking. Why is the Ir Miklat in Reuven's Chelek mentioned first? Because he was the first one who thought to save Yosef from the pit. Reuven heard about this and he saved them from their hands. Moshe separated 3 cities as Ir Miklat, Mizrach HaShemesh, with the rising of the sun. he said, Moshe told Moshe Rabbeinu, make these air miklat to make the sun rise to help out the Reitzchem. He said after he made the Ari Miklat, you have helped the Reitzchem, you made the sun rise for them. One who loves kesef will never be satisfied with whatever kesef he eats, whatever money he acquires. And someone who loves acquiring, he likes collecting a huge amount, he's not going to have any tefua. So ayiv kesef liyizba kesef zem Moshe Rabbeinu. That's a reference to Moshe Rabbeinu. Sheyedei she'ein shalosh arim shebe'ever yadin koltas ad shalei nifku shalosh be'eretz Canaan. V'amar mitzvah shebal yadi akaymenu. Even though he knew that the Ari Miklat in Ever Yardin were not going to work until the Ari Miklat in Eretz Yisrael were established, he still didn't wait to make the Ari Miklat in Ever Yardin. He said, I want to do my mitzvah. So he's a Ayiv Kesef. He likes to do mitzvahs. Layizva Kesef, he's never enough. He runs to do mitzvahs all the time. Umi Ayiv B'hamoin Loi Tavua. What does that mean? Lami No Lil Moid B'hamoin. Who is a good person to teach Torah in the Rabbim? Misha Kol Tfua Shaloi. That's we darshan. It means not Shekol Tfua Shaloi that he doesn't have Tfua, but someone to who all Tfua is to him, meaning he has all the Torah by him. In order for someone to teach Torah, he has to have a familiarity with God's Torah. Behind the Amrulaza, who will say the praise of Hashem, the one who's Mashmiya Kolti Lasai, who's able to do that? Me no, the Malak verse Hashem, who can praise Hashem? Misha Yachal Hashmiya Kolti Lasai, someone who is familiar with all of his ways. How do they darshan it? Or one who is beloved to teach to the Hamoyin, to large groups of people, he will have children who will also be Rabbanim. They looked at Rava, the son of Rabba. Rabba taught in large groups, and his son Rava also became a Rebbe. Ravashi Yama, he darshans this pasuk. The cherev is on those who stay alone, and they're fools. Cherev al tsayavar tzavarei soneim shel talmidei chacham. He darshans this to say that the sword is on the neck of, when it says soneim and shel talmidei chacham, but it's really referring to talmidei chacham sheyoshev va'iskim b'Torah bad b'bad, that learn Torah by their own. V'loy oid. Not only that, el shemetapshin, they become fools if they learn by themselves. Ksiv hacham and noyaloi, it says over here they become noyaloi. Ksiv hasam ashel ne'alnu. We all say in the vidui that we were foolish. V'loy oid el shechaytin. Not only are they fools, but they're also chaytin when they learn by themselves because they make mistakes. Shneva v'asher chatanu, ne'alnu v'asher chatanu. They're fools and they do chatayim. The person has to learn with others because otherwise he'll make a lot of mistakes. He has to check against others. Another place where you see that Noyal is a lashon of foolishness. Noyal like Sarait Tzayin, the Sarait Tzayin fooled themselves. Rebbe Harba Torah Lamadi Rabbi say a lot I learned from my Rebbeim. Mechaveri Yosem him, and I learned even more from my Chaveri. But Talmidei Yosem Ikulam, I learned the most from my Talmidim. So that's what it means. Whoever will learn it, will teach to a lot of people, he's going to end up learning the most. Amr Shuman Levi Maidach Siv, this Hayraglain B'Sharayik Shlayim, our feet, our legs were standing in the gates of Yerushalayim. What causes us to be Menseach and Mulchama? Shari Yerushalayim, the gates of Yerushalayim. Show you Oiskim b'Torah. That Shari Yerushalayim is a reference to Torah. The people who learn, the learning of Torah causes the Yidden to win in Melchama. Rami Shubin Levi, Maidach Siv, Shir Amalei, so David, Samachti, Barimli, Beis Hashem Nelech. David said a Mizmar, I was Sameach when they said, go into the house of Hashem. Amar David Neglesh Baruch, Basham, Shemati B'nei Adam Shayu Oimrim, Motzei Yamu Zaken said, when will this Zaken, meaning David HaMelech himself, when will he die? V'yavish Shlemim B'nai, V'yivnei Beis HaBchira. And he's going to build the Beis HaMikdash. They knew that David HaMelech, because he was an Ish Muhammad, couldn't build it. They wanted him to die, that the Shlomo should build it. Vinala Regel. And because the people said this because they wanted to be Oila Regel, they wanted the base of Mikdash rebuilt to be Oila Regel. And David says, I was some Sameach. I'm happy that people wanted to do mitzvahs. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Moshe said back to him, Ki toiv yoim bechatzrecha me'elef toiv me'elef. The Moshe said, a day in your chatzar, in your presence, is better than 1,000. Toiv li yoim echad she'ata oisik b'toira lefanai. One day of your David HaMelech's Torah is better for me. I'm not looking forward to Shlomo HaMelech's building the Beis HaMikdash. Right now, I want is your learning Torah. Okay, we'll stop over here. Yasher Koyach for your patience. I hope.